As the story unravels, it delves into the intricate journey of a friend whose initial fascination with the occult morphs into a downward spiral of drug abuse and unsettling behavior. Ultimately, this dark path culminates in a chilling act of murder, leaving a haunting sense of unease in its wake. Ravenously_read. My crazy friend ended up becoming a murderer. So today has been a particularly slow day at work, and I've been killing time reading these stories. Maybe enough time has passed and I can share mine. I had this friend who was really into the occult. Unfortunately, I was the one who got him turned on to it. We had a mutual appreciation of the paranormal and all things weird, so I thought the subject would interest him. He started going deep into the subject to the point where he wouldn't talk about anything else. He would actually interrupt the conversation and force the subject back to occult matters. Rude, but sometimes people go through phases where their interest is all they want to talk about. It was a mostly forgivable offense. I think I should mention that this particular friend didn't have a very large friend circle. His depression and introverted nature kept him inside a lot. He didn't have the best luck in relationships with women. His world was kind of small, and I did enjoy hanging out with him, so I did my best to be a good friend. I didn't want to just brush him off because he was acting a little weirder than normal. Honestly, for the longest time, he was a totally normal guy. We'd chat and play games together on the PlayStation. Sometimes we'd go see movies with my boyfriend accompanying us. We all hung out at the park, we went swimming. Overall, we had a good time hanging out. Things started to go downhill when he started to smoke DMT. Personally, I think psychedelics are amazing tools that can offer insight into your life, but they should be treated with respect. My friend got to the point where he was making it himself, apparently a pretty easy thing to do after a meager amount of research, and he was smoking it daily, multiple times a day. For those of you who aren't familiar with the substance, when you smoke it, you get transported to a different world, an entirely new plane of existence. Your body and yourself don't exist anymore. You're just exploring this alternate reality dreamscape. My personal experience with it led me to seeing a dragon once in this kaleidoscope of a cornucopia. People see all kinds of different things there. Imagine what that does to a person when they're smoking it 30+ times in a day. He started telling me things like he was the reincarnated Osiris. He said he was seeing Egyptian hieroglyphs all over the place in waking life. Apparently, he had hour-long conversations with entities in his bedroom even when he wasn't smoking DMT. Of course, I was very alarmed to hear all of this, and I told him he needed to take a serious break. No drugs at all for a few months so he can find solid footing in reality again. At this point, I was still hanging out with him because he obviously needed some help, and like I said before, he didn't have a lot of friends that could give him that. He was also the black sheep of the family, so I knew he wasn't getting any kind of support from them. He was really close to his sister, and I did reach out to her on Facebook to express my concerns. I pushed her to talk him into getting some psychiatric help because he was slipping past the point of no return. I'm not really sure if she took my messages seriously since we didn't really know each other. Plus, she is at least 6 years younger than us and possibly didn't grasp how serious the situation was becoming. In any case, I'll jump forward now to the part where things start to get really creepy. My boyfriend had made arrangements to hang out with our friend at the park. I didn't really want to go because I felt like I needed a break from him and his nonsensical ranting. I just couldn't deal with it on that particular day. My boyfriend said he wasn't all that bad and we went anyway. We get to the park and he's his usual self, ranting about Egypt and made up gods that only he knew the truth about, etc. He also had this large hunting knife that he kept fiddling with the whole time we were on a walk. He told us that he had been using it in ceremonial magic and that it helped to banish negative thoughts. It made me extremely uneasy. He would do this thing where he would take the knife and make stabbing motions near his heart or head, like he was mock stabbing himself, all while holding a conversation with me or my boyfriend. I think we were both really on edge and didn't know what to say or do about it. I tried to distract him from doing it by bringing up other subjects that might interest him, but he kept on with his ritual. Keep in mind we were walking on a trail, so it wasn't like we could just say goodbye then and there. We had to walk back to our car and drop him off at his car. My boyfriend had the bright idea that we should get some lunch after our walk, even though I was doing my best to give him a look that said, "No, you crazy fuck. Why do you think I want to spend any more time with this nut?" But it must not have been very effective. Or my boyfriend was ignoring it. Not sure. Either way, we ended up getting in the car to go get lunch. In the car I was driving, my boyfriend was in the passenger seat, and our weirdo friend was in the back. As we're heading through a busy part of town where all the shopping and restaurants are, I hear the distinctive sound of a belt buckle coming undone. Then I hear the worst sound imaginable. I peek back out of the corner of my eye and my suspicions were confirmed. This crazy fucker was full on jacking off in our backseat. I mean, pants all the way down, bare ass on the seat. Beating it so hard it was like he wanted to rip it off. Instantly, I felt sick to my stomach and all the nervous energy I had throughout the day popped up into my head. I was trying not to shake and trying to ignore it and drive through heavy traffic. I kind of had a freeze response, I guess. The whole time I kept thinking about that huge-ass knife he had in his pocket, and obviously he was completely off his rocker now. I was afraid to say anything or confront him because I didn't know how he was going to react. This part is nuts, but my boyfriend didn't fucking seem to notice, and the whole time he kept rambling on about God knows what. I couldn't listen because my thoughts were 100% focused on driving and trying to act like I didn't know what was going on in my backseat. We get to the restaurant and my boyfriend runs inside to grab food. I'm left alone in the car with our friend, and I try to act like I'm browsing on my phone, when really I'm watching and listening as hard as I can. We don't talk. My boyfriend gets back and I complain that I'm tired. It's been a long day. Let's drop him off, etc. So I drive us back to our friend's car, and he doesn't get out of our vehicle. He just sits there. I have to get a little bit rude and ask him to please get out and go home. He gets out of our car and walks over to his passenger side. I start getting really scared and I suspected the worst. He pulled a gun out of some kind of bag he had on the seat, and he just walks over to our car with it. I don't know why the fuck I did this, but I was so pissed I just got out of my car and walked right up to him. I was maybe 3 feet away and could see it was a loaded 9mm. I kept asking him over and over, "What are you doing?" Because apparently that's all my brain could think to do. I told him to get in his car and go home. He never said anything during this whole time, just kind of cried and had this wild look in his eye. For whatever reason, he got back into his car and drove off. I told my boyfriend obviously we are never hanging out with him again and that I didn't even want him to talk to him anymore. No contact, nada. A few months pass and he occasionally messages me through the PlayStation or texts my phone. He says a lot of random stuff and I just ignore it. It turns out he moved down to TN near Nashville. I don't know why. He had a roommate and I think their girlfriend lived there? I'm not really sure about the situation. I think maybe he's turning his life around and getting a fresh start down there. I think it's best to cut all contact and let him regroup. I'm not interested in any kind of friendship with him, and I know he needed help beyond what I could offer. Again, I reached out to his sister and let her know that he had a gun. She managed to get it from him somehow, but it did little good in the end. I get a call around 11 p.m. one night that wakes me up. It's a man claiming he's a detective down in Gallatin, Tennessee, and my heart skips a beat. I start sweating and immediately ask what happened. Apparently, my former friend stabbed someone to death on Halloween Day. I don't know all the details, and the articles about it are kind of sparse. The whole thing is really surreal, and I'm just left feeling like I'm lucky that I didn't get shot last summer. This whole thing turned out way longer than I meant it to be, but that's the story. I'm still feeling creeped out by the whole ordeal, and I'm kind of feeling sick after writing all of this. Hammy Sammy 157. Some drugs cause swelling in the brain and cause lifelong effects with enough times using it. It can cause delusional behavior, paranoia, and can fry their brain that they can't do anything on their own. Even if he was off the drugs since he was seeing stuff even when he claimed to not be high, the drugs definitely messed his brain, which to my understanding you can never get back to the life you used to have and will deal with it till you die. Deleted user. Damn, what a fucked up story. Also, your BF is one oblivious motherfucker. No spider sense at all, huh? I can feel the energy of people like that instantly and know to get the fuck away, and definitely not leave my GF alone in a car with someone like that for fuck's sake. Another green room. One of my friend's best friend and his mom were murdered in their own home by a school friend who his family was trying to help out. He had a psychotic break and stabbed them to death. My friend is permanently and seriously traumatized. She was there the night they got murdered but decided to go home suddenly. Her spidey sense. Never offer your home to someone who makes you uncomfortable. This Cyril Vedra one. I just want to say thank you, and that you have done nothing wrong. Trying to support and be a good friend him up to the point where it was no longer safe to do so. You did a very admirable job. I am so sorry that you had to go through this. Obviously, psychedelics have a place in our lives, but not for people who obviously have imbalances to begin with. Truly deeply disturbing. I am so happy you put your foot down with him. Although I feel sad for him and the victim, I think you narrowly escaped a super dangerous situation. He obviously completely lost all grip on reality. Sad to think with professional intervention, no judgment on you. You did what you could. At the right time, maybe he could have been brought back from the precipice of his insanity. Thanks for sharing. That couldn't have been easy. Was definitely a very interesting read. Ravenously_read. OP. I appreciate you saying this. Some of my close friends who didn't know him said I should have done more to intervene, and it had me feeling kind of guilty because someone ended up getting murdered. In the past, when I have called the cops to report crimes committed against me, they didn't take me very seriously, and I figured it'd be more the same in this instance. I thought the best approach was to reach out to his family. It's sad because his whole life is ruined now. Maybe it wouldn't have turned out this way if he had gotten more help. Just zero Vedger one. Sadly, our current system gravely neglects mental health, with early intervention being largely non-existent. I know a few that with early intervention their problems could have been much better. Unless the family really pushes or school etc., people slip right through. It's upsetting and also dangerous for people and everyone around them. It was not your job or place. You told the sister. At that point, she should have either informed the police or parents to intervene. I am so sorry again. This explores the depths of a human psyche failing. Not easy to deal with at all. Hugs from over here. Smiley face. Tumbling star. Yes, he might have turned out better if he had gotten some professional help. But how would you have made that happen? As you said, the police in your area were not effective. They might have also only been interested in nailing him with drug charges as well, depending on how caring the officers are. You went to the family at least twice asking for him to get professional help. If someone did the same concerning my sibling, I would at least look into the situation. So in the end, what more could you do? You tried talking to him about it, and that didn't work. As far as I know, the next thing to do is forcibly try to have him committed. You did what you could, and if anyone has anything to say about how you could have done more, tell them to fuck off. Ravenously_read. OP. Yeah, a few people seem mad that I didn't call the cops. I think what they're forgetting is that he didn't actually hurt me or my boyfriend, even though he was acting 100% strange that day. I reasoned that if I called the cops, they'd show up at his house, hassle him, and potentially arrest him. That would cause him to miss work and have trouble with the law, potential drug charges, etc. I know if you're struggling mentally, the last thing you need is extra stress in your life. After the whole fiasco, he probably wouldn't even get to see a therapist, but he'd probably have a parole officer up his ass. I think people are forgetting that he was a normal friend until that one day, where he was just totally off the deep end. Maybe Sherry. For why go? Sure, you could have called the police on his drug use, but that would have ended with a night or two in jail and not much else. The addict has to have plenty of money for rehab. And our mental health care for those with such serious issues and no insurance just doesn't even exist. To be committed, family has to say he is a danger. His family must have been blind to everything. Sadly, since our mental health, rehab, and prison systems just don't work together, I don't really see what you could have done. I think you were lucky to not have been a victim of his delusional violence. You are not guilty, nor are you responsible for his violence. Love Tea Cream Puff 1031. I had a similar thing happen to me. This kid named Nate that was in my circle of friends. He and I weren't best friends or anything, but we were definitely well acquainted. He was always a little different, kind of socially awkward, not the greatest luck with women, but he was harmless. So we all thought. So after high school, a bunch of us attended the local community college, Nate as well. He moves out of his parents' house and rents a room from this older guy who was a little slow. Sorry, I don't know the politically correct term for this. Like the guy was able to live in his own and take care of himself, but was definitely mentally handicapped. Because of his handicap, he talks to his mom almost every day. Then a couple days go by, and the mom hasn't heard from him. Around this time, Nate stopped showing up at school. So the mom sends the cops to his house to do a welfare check, but the cops can't find him. Nate's not there either. It quickly becomes obvious that they're missing. About a week later, the cops go back to the house and they notice a smell. They found the roommate in a closet. Nate had tied him to a chair, put a plastic bag over his head to suffocate him, then threw a bunch of clothes on top of the body and hid him in the closet. There was a multi-state manhunt for Nate. I believe he was apprehended in Illinois and extradited back here. He denied a lawyer, represented himself, admitted guilt, and is now spending the rest of his life in prison. None of us know why he snapped. Like I said, he was always a little different, but I never thought he'd murder a defenseless person in cold blood. The fucked up thing is we had been at Nate's house just a couple days before the murder happened, and nothing seemed amiss. Just goes to show you never really know what people are capable of, and you never really know someone as well as you think you do. Series E8 2283. Well, I know you noticed he was becoming more strange and off his rocker, but I don't think anyone could have guessed he would have ended up a murderer. I hope you know you really were a great friend. You tried to be there for him when no one else was, and whether or not he realized it, he was lucky to have you as a friend. I'm happy that you and your BF made it out of the friendship safe and alive. It takes a lot of guts to put yourself knowingly in front of a loaded weapon. I've been there myself. I believe you putting yourself out there like that is probably what saved your life. I hate you went through all that, but I believe you're better for it. You know who. I dunno, maybe I'm crazy, but if I had a friend who was acting like they're in psychosis and they have a huge-ass knife and a gun, I'd try to get authorities involved. It feels like it was so preventable. I'm sorry Ob had to go through this and hope they recovered and got some insight on how to act if, God forbid, something like that happens to them or people around them again. And it's not victim blaming. Apparently Op acted in the way they felt was most appropriate and safe at the time. But I just think that it has to be something we can learn from and not just brush it off as creepy story we read online. We have to educate ourselves on potential dangers of mental illness and act responsibly if something should ever arise. Please, if you feel like your friend or family member, or any person at that matter, is potentially dangerous and is psychiatrically unstable, owns weapons, please first get safe yourself, and then make sure anyone around them is safe too. 666. It's good that you shared this story. I know it would have bothered me holding it in. It's not fair that you have to carry around that stress and anxiety when all you wanted to do was be a friend. At least you noticed the signs and eventually removed yourself from harm's way. I can't believe how your BF reacted, or failed to react rather. That's just as insane to me. You should have noticed the signs too, or at least noticed your discomfort with the situation and do what he could to remove you from it. I would have been pissed if he just acted like everything was all good. Good story. Thanks for sharing. Ravenously_red. Up. My poor boyfriend LOL, this story doesn't paint him in the best light. Admittedly, he doesn't have the best spidey senses. I will say that afterwards he was really upset about everything I told him. The night I got the call from the detective, we were both worried he might be on his way back to Ohio. When he was finally arrested, we both cried from relief. Dog 1s chill why. You may be lucky, but someone in TN was pretty unlucky. Not sure it would have changed anything, but next time a friend mimics violence or self-harm with an actual weapon, report that to his school. I'm assuming you guys were college age, into law enforcement. There are laws in some states that allow police to take his weapons until he gets help. Undebutix. I found this cross posted on another sub, read it out of pure curiosity because it was gilded, scrolled the comments and clicked the link of the obituary of the victim to pay my respects of sorts, just to find out I may know him. As he went to the same college I did, possibly at the same time I did, as we're around the same age, and he does look oddly familiar. The world is a small place. Comment from it, read it. Sorry, I will not lock up cross-posting smiley face. Kiwi C. Just a possible comment on his change in personality. He may have had an obsessive personality, so that's why he constantly spoke about the occult matters and nothing else. Also, we can trigger inherited schizophrenic genes, so it could be the same sort of situation with DMT, and that may explain why he was so delirious. Schizophrenia can, only in super rare occasions, provoke someone to act in such behaviors if there is no concrete line between reality and their hallucinations. I'm a third-year psych student, so I'm educated on the topics, but not nearly enough to be an expert, so take my commentary with a grain of salt. Seafoam_blue098. Crazy is used for people who have weird obsessions that take to the extreme. Extremely fucked up is used for people doing DMT 30 times a day, or any drug 30 times a day for that matter, fapping in other people's cars and randomly pulling weapons. Donchudumsker. I'm sorry that what was a decent friendship turned out to be something so horrid in the end. I can only imagine how you feel. This story kind of makes me think of demonic possession. Not sure if you believe in that, but did you ever suspect the possibility? Ravenously_red. I don't really believe in possession, but he did spiral pretty dramatically. His mental health deteriorated overnight, it seemed like. Diamond Galaxy. This story really fucked with me. I'm SOS sorry you went through this. Do you have a therapist? I really think you should consider it if you haven't already. This is really traumatic. If you ever need to talk, please don't hesitate to reach out. Take care of you, Red Heart. Smoking Green Sanity. I think the biggest thing that pisses me off about this story is that a crazy fucking lunatic like this has friends that are willing to hang out and listen to his rants, whilst jacking it in the backseat. Yet I can't open my mouth to complain about bad traffic without people rolling their eyes and becoming frustrated at how annoying I am faced with rolling eyes. Oaf being CALM. I think the drugs really got to your once upon a time friend. DMT is nothing to screw with at those levels. I'm glad you're safe because it sounds like you could have snapped at any moment. You tried to help as best you could, so I hope you don't feel somehow responsible. This wasn't your fault. Prayers and peace. Loose, Farm, 8669. DMT is 100% not for people with mental illness. I had a buddy who did it once and spiraled into an episode of mania. He believed he physically saw God in the DMT realm and had to spend months in a psychiatric hospital. He has bipolar disorder, as do I. I have nothing against psychedelics for those who are in a stable mental state, but I have no interest in them unless I were to find the perfect state of equilibrium, and even if then, I wouldn't want to ruin it in 15 minutes. Ravenously_red. Up. It's not a story about psychedelics fucking up his life. He was nearly a 30-year-old man who still lived at home with his parents in a dead-end job, no girlfriend, and no real education or future career prospects. He was obviously majorly depressed, which in turn led to his substance abuse. Psychedelics aren't to blame, as millions of people use them without issue. In this case, he was abusing DMT and smoking it literally 30+ times a day. Anyone who has tried DMT knows how insane that is because it's such an intense experience. Tele516. I just want to make sure you know that DID and multiple personality disorder are the same thing. They just renamed it to dissociative identity disorder. Also, it doesn't sound likely that he actually had/has DID, because typically people who do are not violent and they don't talk to. There are other alters in the sense it sounds like he did, so I think he made that part up for whatever reason, probably to manipulate you somehow, especially since he is a pathological liar. Also, he can't be ex-military unless he wasn't showing signs of schizophrenia before he joined. They won't let someone with major mental disorders like that join because they will become a liability and can't do their job as well. Also, I don't know the situation with your new man, but the fact that he blocked him without your consent is a major red flag despite the dude being sketchy. If he ever does find out where you live or another way to contact you, I hope you can find the courage to turn him away for your own safety. I hope all goes well for you from here on out. Smiling face with smiling eyes. Sarah Loves Pewds 19420. Oh no, I think you just took it the wrong way, as I also wrote it wrong. Oswell, I was super high. Off natural weed, of course. I don't do hard drugs, but no, actually I'm an INFJ, or what people like to call the counselor. I guess I just have a different way of speaking that most people don't really get. See, I like to get to know people from their soul, heart, and mind. Cannot always stand casual talk like what you had for lunch or what you just bought at the mall. I really love getting to know people internally and on an emotional or spiritual level. Not all the time, because I'm kinda shy IRL. A bit of an introvert, but also a bit extra because I love most people and helping way too much. I get called doormat way too much for how I overly help people and let myself get taken advantage of because of my love for everybody. But I need breaks alone often, as talking to people and helping 24/7 drains me both physically and mentally. If you asked anyone who knew me in real life, they'd probably say I was way too sweet, kind of a pushover and a little shy but outgoing in my own ways. Like video games, LOL. I guess what I meant was my interest for paranormal and mental problems was taken the wrong way. I knew this guy in a deep way at one point, but it got to the crazy get-up point to where I honestly just wanted to start to know him mentally, so I could see if he was really safe. But it's also safe to say I didn't stick around long enough to take that chance. It's a good thing, I guess. I hope you, and whoever may have read this post, understand that they misunderstood me. Maybe I should edit my post now that I'm thinking clearly. Anyways, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Deleted user. Gotta be honest, it's not likely that I'd allow myself to get into that situation in the first place. Opie failed to protect herself several times and almost got herself murdered. Opie states that she goes against her instincts and associates with this individual who is clearly disturbed. She then does nothing when this guy has his pants down in her back seat. Then she just chills with him while her BF gets food. I'm not trying to be insensitive, but it sounds like she has issues with boundaries and common sense, which could get her in more trouble in the future. Lucky Mew Mew. Well, it's a good job you're here to tell all us silly women what we should be doing. If you haven't noticed, we are all human beings, and we all do things that we know we shouldn't, or things we aren't certain about. And that includes associating with odd people. We aren't all perfect, and we all make silly mistakes. But apparently OP is crazier than the murderer, according to you. All because she made a mistake in who she associated with. Deleted user. You let him jerk off in your back seat and then stayed in the car with him? Why wouldn't you tell your boyfriend immediately? Why would you stay in the car? You are the craziest character in this story. You are crazy. Ravenously_red. Up. Well, since you're being such a jerk, I should mention I'm a victim of sexual assault, so the experience put me in a